Hi, this is Jay Horwitz, the latest edition of Amazing Conversation with Sarah Langs. So we've never met before, but I've admired your work from afar. I've been doing stats all my life, 40 years. I'm just simply amazed some of the stuff you come up with. My good friend George, who works here, came up with two things in the World Series last year. Right after Nola lost a no-hitter, you came out with a thing. The third pitcher in MLB history to be on bad end of two no-hitters. And the other one, the Astros had 11 consecutive no-hitters innings in a row. You came out seconds later. They tied the 1939 Yankees for let's even do that. I mean, how do you do that?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I am blown away. I was, to even get the email and hear that you want to speak to me.
It's my honor.
I grew up a Mets fan. I've known who you are for so long, and
Yeah, I'm old, Sarah. Yeah.
to meet you this way is absolutely amazing. But to answer your question, I mean, having worked in PR and stats, that it's all about sort of anticipating what's going to be the next storyline. So when that was going on during that no-hit bid, an eventual no-hitter by the Astros against the Phillies in the World Series, once it kind of became clear that the Phillies really didn't have a chance that night, I started thinking ahead of what those potential notes might be. And that one about Nola being on the losing end, and of course the other being the combined no-hitter by the Mets earlier in the year in
Right.
2022. That one had actually come up the year prior, I believe, in 2021 with Zach Plesac and the Cleveland Guardians. And so I remembered that, and a lot of what you do in this industry, as you know, kind of builds on itself. So a lot of the things that I've researched over the years, and I haven't been doing this all that long, but even still, you have a memory of what you've looked up. And I remembered, oh, it's the Zach Plesac note. And that reminded me to go look and see if Nola might join that one.
I'm in order. Gary Cohn refers to you as a great Sarah Langs. I'm sure you know. You know, like I said, I've been with the Mets a long time. Gary Carter, Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry. I read someplace Oliver Perez is your favorite man. No offense, to Oliver Perez, but I can never. I love Ollie. He's a great guy, but I can never ever remember saying to anybody that Oliver Perez was your favorite Met. I mean, tell me.
So the way that came about was, I mean, I grew up, my first Mets game was Mike Piazza's first game as a Met, May 23rd, 1998, against the
Adelaide of
Brewers.
the game.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And it was
right.
his shorts day. I still have the shorts. He was my favorite player for a very long time because he was, the popular player, the big deal, all of that. And the natural transition was to David Wright after that, of course. I also really liked Tsuyoshi Shinjo back in the
Right.
day. But when I really started going to games, with my parents, we started going to more and more games as it was clear that I really loved this. And I never wanted to be the person with the shirt on that everyone else had on. Everyone
Right.
was wearing their David Wright shirts. Everyone had
Right.
their Carlos Beltran shirts. And Oliver Perez was a pitcher I loved watching. So I had an Oliver Perez number 46.
I'm sure you remember in the 2006 LCS, he was on the mound when Andy Chavez made the catch in left field. You know, he's
Yep.
pitched in the majors for 20 yees. They say this about 20 years is a pretty good career for him.
He's still pitching actually in the Dominican Winter League going on right now. I watched him pitch last night for the Estrella, so that's really awesome to see.
So I heard our playoff game from my good friend Buster Olney. I know he's a good friend of yours. Told me that our game against the Giants in the wild card game caused a lot of consternation in your family. You were worried for the Mets, and your mom was a Giant fan.
Yes, that is true. So back in 2016, I was still a rooting fan at that point. I wasn't in the role I'm in now. And my dad, also a big Mets fan. And my mom will root for the Mets in any situation, except if they're playing her Giants. And she grew up a big Giants fan, of course, Willie Mays, Billy McCovey, you name it. And the family actually moved west right around when the Giants moved from New York to San Francisco. And that game, I remember getting us tickets, getting off from work. I was at ESPN at the time. And my mother was just so stressed out that I would be upset, that my dad would be upset. And we're there watching one of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time.
Yeah. No,
And
no
she's just stressed out.
another story I got through my grapevine. Bruce Bochy is a good friend of yours. Did you were yelling at the stands from him in Arizona, as Buster told me?
Yes, so my mom, as I mentioned, is a huge San Francisco Giants fan. So we've been going down to Scottsdale for spring training every year since 2010. We went with my grandmother for the first 8 years, and then now it's been she and I and my father. And in I want to say 14, there was a game the Giants played against the Royals, who they would end up meeting in the World Series. And it was just a spring training game. I mean, I love baseball, but most of these games blend together. But my mom and I were sitting in the first row right next to the dugout, not in our own seats. We were just sitting there until anyone showed up to boot us away. Nobody did. And I was cheering and rooting for her team very loudly. And this is when the managers sometimes sit on the field during spring training. Not as much anymore, but back then they did. And at one point, Bruce Bochy turns around and just starts chatting with me. And we talked, and he asked my name, my mom's name, what I did at the time I was in school. And then the next day, he remembered me. We came back the next year, and he remembered me. And from there, we chat, and it's really,
Yeah, I think he's
beyond belief.
very well in Texas too. He's a good guy and everything. Tell me about you. We work with Buck Showalter at CB at ESPN too.
Yeah, I didn't exactly cross paths with him, but I know he's very aware of, the great ESPN baseball community, and it's so great to both be, part of all that.
So let me just go back to October if I can with you. You announced on Twitter that you have ALS. How hard was it for you to make that announcement? On Twitter.
It was much harder to think about making it than to actually make it. I've been dealing with this for longer than just that day or that week. And it had gotten to the point where I felt like I was sort of hiding something, and I really wanted to get the chance to make an impact with fundraising for ALS research and anything else. And I wasn't going to be able to do any of that unless I shared what was going on. So even though it was certainly a stressful moment, it was a lot of relief just to put it out there, to fully be myself and not feel like people are judging me. I mean, they still might, who knows, but at least know
No, not a
that they
chance.
knew the context.
Mike Tevan in MLB says you're working with them on the Lou Gehrig celebration on July 4th. Tell me about that, Sarah.
Yeah, so Lou Gehrig Day, this will be the third Lou Gehrig Day that MLB has put on. And I'm really excited to be part of the committee. We're really just starting to get going with figuring out what it's going to look like. But, I can't take any credit at this point, but and there is a great group led by Adam Wilson, Chuck Haberstroh, Phil Green, and a handful of others who have done an amazing job putting on this day twice. And I'm really excited for it to continue to take more of a foothold. I just think Lou Gehrig is such an important figure in baseball history, and baseball has such a specific link to this disease and can really make an impact there.
And you're going to be honored this at the writers' dinner in the end of this month. Got to be exciting for you too, huh?
It is, but I'm not good at being the center of attention, and
I
the
know.
idea, I'm
Well,
going to be on the dais. Do you know how big Aaron Judge is? And I'm going to
well,
be near him.
well,
I can't imagine.
well. You'll do great. So tell me, I know you have shirts made up. Now, raise awareness for Project ALS. How can the people who listen, how can they get the shirts, and how do you go about doing that?
For sure. So this was actually a surprise to me when it first came about, but pitching ninja Rob Friedman worked with Kenny at RotoWare to put together a shirt that says baseball is the best, which is a thing I say a lot. And then it also says end ALS. And the proceeds from those shirts are going to Project ALS, which is the first organization that was founded solely for the purpose of ALS research, trying to find a cure.
How do people get it?
So you go to rotoware.com, is ROTO, where WEAR.com. And if you search on there under baseball, they have those shirts, and they're very soft, I have to admit. I mean, that shouldn't matter here, but they're great shirts and they're really good quality as well.
It's a great quote. Let me go back to baseball a second. Do you went a long time in between seeing Mets wins? What was it, 10 years? Do you ever think you were a jinx, or were you?
I
That's
did.
a long time. We didn't win a lot in those days either.
No, but I mean, there was an entire playoff run. There was a year where the Mets were the best team in baseball in between. So my first game was May 23rd, 1998. They won that game against the Brewers, as we mentioned. And then we went to a handful of games in between, really starting to ramp up and go to more games around 04, 05, 06. Of course, went to 2 games in the playoffs. So we went to Game 2 of the NLCS and then Game 7 of the NLCS in 06. And I did not see another win in person until May 13th, 2007.
I don't know what you think. For me, Carlos Beltran has never gotten his due. That was one of the most hellacious pitchers I've ever seen. I always kid Cliff Floyd. Cliff, why don't you bunt? He's up at first and second and nobody out. He should have bunted. Tell me what Karl, Ravech, and Buster have meant to your career. I know they're big supporters and anything that you do.
I mean, they've meant everything to my career. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if not for the two of them. Buster was the first person to give me a platform beyond writing. When I was at ESPN, I was a researcher. I would get chances to write for ESPN.com occasionally. But Buster was the person who reached out to me in 2007 at the beginning of the year and said, "Hey, do you want to come on the podcast? Maybe we'll call it something like the numbers game." And here we are, and I'm talking to him on the numbers game tomorrow, and this is January 2023. So that has been absolutely amazing. And Karl, very similarly, I mean, I was his researcher on Baseball Night, and I just feel so honored that he has believed in me, trusted in me to work with him in these incredible events, but also just to trust my aptitude for the game, my thoughts for the game, and rely on me. And so many others see that from the two of them, and I think that's how I am where I am now.
Buster told me you never send out any negative notes. Most of it. Is that true? I mean, you try and be positive in the stuff you send out.
I really do. I mean, one of the more negative was that Aaron Nola note you made reference to earlier, because that's being on the losing end of no-hitters, which certainly isn't ideal. But yeah, I mean, there's so many numbers out there. Yes, sometimes we have to talk about a team being no hit, but I'm not going to be the one to be going overboard about the numbers from, when Chris Davis of the Orioles got off to a really bad start at the beginning of the 2019 season, things like that. I mean, I understand those are important, and certainly I'm not trying to obscure anything of the game, but I just want to show people why it's so wonderful, and negativity doesn't really do that.
What was it like for you to be a part of the first all-female broadcast on MLB? That'd be a big thrill.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, I didn't realize there hadn't been one previously until we started getting asked to do media availabilities and talk to people, and it was being framed in that way. But I mean, Melanie Newman is such a star, and Alana Rizzo is such a pro, and the ability to work with the two of them was just amazing. And everyone, we had Heidi Watney and Lauren Gardner on the pregame show, and just being in the same sentence with all of them was really, really incredible.
And if you know, you and I are going to be working together in March. I'm the press officer for Team Israel, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I was a regular PR guy for 38 years, couldn't break away. Now I have a little more free time, so I guess we send you notes every day. The one thing I'm petrified of, when I first started typing my notes, Sarah, I was using an electric typewriter with whiteout. I remember one time I'm in Chicago. I must have gone through 4 bottles of whiteout, and Dallas Green is hovering above me, the big bear of a guy. I said, Mike, I can do this job, but I can't type notes anymore. He said, no, no, we can send them to Sarah, and she'll take care of you. So I can send you my gobbledygook or my typos, and we'll keep you up to date on Team Israel. Look, Ian Kittle is the manager. Really looking forward. I've never been a part of that before, and it should be good. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm really excited for it. I've been a huge fan of the WBC since
yeah.
it started. I'm really excited to get to go to some games and see teams. I mean, I loved what Team Israel did last time around. I was still at ESPN. I was writing stories about them. Very excited about the mensch on the bench and all of that. So I'm excited to see
Yeah, well,
what
yeah,
they do.
Ian Kinsler, who played in the Olympic team as a manager. My friend John Blake says he's a good guy, so I'm looking forward to working. For, where are you going to be based out of, Sarah? Do you know yet, or?
I don't know yet. I'm sort of trying to decide if I want to go watch the US team in Arizona or if I want to go watch Team Israel and that Dominican Republic team in Miami. But then I'll be in Miami for the end of the tournament for sure.
Sarah, tell me, I don't know. I didn't very. Was this your note or about um, the the Max Fried to Alex Bregman to Jock Peterson note, the first Jewish kid? I don't know. Was that you or was that somebody else?
That wasn't me, but I love it. I love that.
That's a great. That's what I thought right away. Tell me, give me one of your. What's your other favorite note? Is it one favorite note that you did?
So one of my favorites that I always like to mention was back in May of 2019. There was a game where I mentioned my mom's a big Giants fan, so I'm very aware of the San Francisco Giants. And they had a game in Cincinnati where they were losing big, and Pablo Sandoval pitched the bottom of the eighth inning. And, I think he faced 4 guys, but he didn't allow a run. Earlier in the game, he had hit a home run. And then I believe in the ninth inning, he got a stolen base that, maybe it was defensive indifference, but they called it a stolen base. And I'm sitting there and I'm wondering how many guys have hit a home run, had a scoreless inning, and stolen a base in the same
Who
game.
thinks like that? I mean, seriously, I wow, that's criminal. And how long
So
did it take to get there?
So I called up the Elias Sports Bureau and I worked with them. And of course, I'm sure you know them very well.
Bob
And
Ortem is a genius too. Yeah.
they're wonderful there. And they helped me find out that only 2 guys since 1900 have had a home run, a stolen base, and a scoreless outing in the same game, at least as of then. And it was Pablo Sandoval and then Christy Mathewson in
Wow.
the early 1900s for the Giants, also against the Reds. It just so happened. And of course, he threw a shutout, not one inning, but still, I thought that was really, really fun.
And another tip about you, or from my friend tell me, you always write thank you notes. In this day and age, you're so commended. I mean, who says thank you in this day? Not to be a pessimist, but very few people say thank you. And that's true. You try to do it in everything that you deal with. Thank people.
I really do. I mean, They're not handwritten. They're usually emails or texts, but I really want people to know how appreciated they are. And especially in this industry, I want them to know that I take none of these moments for granted. I don't take for granted that I'm here getting to talk to you, getting
Oh,
to
come
talk
on, I'm
about
honored to speak to
baseball.
you. I'm honored to speak to you. You went to school. Did you go to school you went to the University of Chicago, right? Was this your dream it being basically, this is what you wanted to do?
It was. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed what I do now, and I didn't really know that being a researcher existed. But I knew I wanted to work in sports. I was pretty sure I wanted it to be baseball, which was always my favorite. And I knew I wanted to write about it in some way, but I had no idea I would be talking about it, going on TV, doing any of that. I mean, it wasn't the goal, but it's incredible.
Was your mom happy when we retired Willie Mays' number?
Yes, we were watching together, and she was actually here hanging out with me, and I was like, "No, you need to come here right now." It
Yeah.
was amazing. I thought that was such a really
You
cool
know,
moment.
because our own owner, John Payton, made a promise to Willie,
Hmm.
and we got a little flack for doing that because, he didn't hit that well, but it was more about what he did. Willie Mays, the legend, what he did to New York, and I'm glad we did. And it's 50 years ago this September that he retired. And it was what it made the old time. You get a chance to watch old timers game?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Well, listen, it's been an honor for me to. I mean, I've admired your work. For somebody who's failed algebra, failed geometry, for you to do this stuff so quickly, not only is it accurate and great notes, but it's like the event just happened and boom, courtesy of Sarah Langs, there we go.
Thank
Well,
you so much. I
no,
really, really appreciate
I'm going to
it.
be at dinner too. I will make sure I say hello to you, and thank you for your time. Do me one last time. Give me the shirts.
So you can get them on the RotoWear website. That's ROTOWEAR.com. And if you click over there and hover over baseball, you'll see all the baseball shirts, and it's on there.
Again, Sarah, thank you for the time, and I look forward to seeing you at the end of the month.
Thank you so much.
Admire what you do,
Such an
kid.
honor.
I admire what you do with your work. Tremendous
Thank
job.
you.